can. Live to be well. Live to be well with Dr. Kim, with Dr. Kim.
Good evening and welcome to Live to Be Well. I'm your host, Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin. Thank you so much for joining us on another wonderful series of Live to Be Well. What is Live to Be Well? Mind, body, and soul. Bringing it all together so that we can be used by God. I pray you've had a good week. It's cold here in Detroit. Now listen, we have the NFL draft getting ready to start on Thursday through Saturday. If you're heading to Detroit, you need to get down there early because it's going to be an expectation of over 300,000 people there. They're expecting over 300,000 people. So if you're going to be one of those 300,000, get there early, get your seat, but dress warm and bring an umbrella on Friday and Saturday. It's going to be raining. It's going to be cold. So dress appropriately so you do not leave our city or return home in any sickness. I would highly recommend you bring a mask. There's going to be a lot of people there, and we know COVID is alive and well. So let's be smart. Listen, let a friend know, let everyone know that Live to Be Well is online. Want to send a shout out to my marketing director, Al Rogers. Thank you, Al. And ML6, he should be joining us a little bit later. And to all of you, again, thank you for joining us here. You know what? This is the month of autism, and there's a lot of myths and a lot of issues surrounding it, but there's a lot of good things happening with autism. And I've learned a lot this month about it. As a child, I was labeled with speech impediments. I was labeled learning disabled, cognitive disorders, and it wasn't very nice. You know, why is it that people label you, or because you are different, that you are labeled that you are dumb, you are stupid, you are incompetent, you will never be able to function? And these are some of the things that was said to me, because I had severe stuttering disorder, I had speech impediments, and I had difficulty in school. So I was labeled all those things, you know. But I love the scripture where it says, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And that did not stop me from being able to go on and secure my education and be able to start my own business and be able to be here with you tonight. But the prayers of the righteous avail much. So tonight we have a very special guest from Orlando, Florida. Her name is Michelle O'Reilly, and she is a mother, she's an advocate, and an author. And I'm so excited to have her on the broadcast tonight. Listen, you need to let someone know that we are moving forward, because this is a month of autism, and we need to celebrate our families, our parents, our children, our young adults, because, you know, just having a normal child is, you know, very impactful. But having a child that has special needs, I want to at this time introduce to you Mrs. Michelle O'Reilly. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, sweetheart. It's so good to have you. I'm just so excited because I know some of the things that I went through as a child and how I was treated, but my mother and father had hope. They believed, and we knew that with a lot of work. Do you know I had 27 years of speech therapy?
Really?
27 years of cognitive skills and other training that I had to go through, but constantly being bullied, being taunted, being dealt with. And I was put in a mainstream school system, Detroit public school system, and the Seventh-day Adventist school system. And so it was very difficult. But again, my mother, my father, they continued to work with me, and my teachers. And back then, Michelle, they didn't have a lot of opportunities for children like me. They didn't know what to do. They didn't even know how to test us. And so it really was left up to the parents to do the bulk of the work. So I thank God for praying parents and hardworking parents. So listen, they know about me, but we want to know about you. We want to know about your book. We want to know about your journey. I like your book. It's called A Journey to Acceptance with Hope, Support, and Peace. We want to know, how did that come about? Here we go. Journey to Acceptance, Finding Hope, Support, and Peace for your autistic child. So let's talk about, Justin. Let's talk about what you've been through and how this book came about. And how did you find hope, support, and peace? Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, for that wonderful introduction. I love your theme song and I love the whole vibe going on here.
Thank you, dear.
Yes. So thank you for having me. Um, it's been quite a journey. Justin is now 21. He unfortunately lives, well, God is good. God is good. God placed him where he is. So I try not to complain. I wish he was with me here right now, but it is what it is. But Justin was born in Atlanta. Unfortunately, every birthday we kind of hoped and prayed that he would begin talking,
Mhm.
and it never happened. And he was a little late on different milestones, walking and just different things, but really, especially speech. It was like, please, people say boys take longer and this kind of thing. And it kind of never came 5, 6, 7. But by 3, I decided to take him somewhere and get a diagnosis. So he was diagnosed with autism from an early age.
Okay.
Um, so we were in Atlanta, and by the time he got to maybe, I don't know, maybe second grade or so, I remember one day I was in a park and a lady watched me trying to teach him how to ride a bike. And my daughter was just, she's younger and she was just zooming ahead.
Mhm.
And here I was with Justin just struggling along. And I remember a lady just came and she just kind of came like an angel. She was like, I'm just, I don't have any business. I don't know you, but I just want to, God just put on my heart to tell you that
Mhm.
there are other places that may have more resources. It was a long time ago now, but she kind of spoke to me and disappeared, but she kind of put in my mind to go to Washington, Maryland area, the DMV, that they had more resources for Justin. So we did end up researching it and found out that that was true and moved to Maryland. And yes, there were more resources, and I got a little bit more into the autism circle and found some things and learned a little bit more about it, about, in the school system, how to advocate, and I kind of got my bearing a little bit more with it. But after being there for about 4 years, we started to really miss the South and miss our being around family, because you also need family support.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, of course, typical people need family support, typical families with kids, but especially when you have a child with special needs, it's very hard to not have family around, because there's all kind of challenges. Even when they get older, they can't be left alone. You're going to need a babysitter forever. You're never going to outgrow it and stuff like that. So we decided to move to Florida. My sister was living here at the time,
Mhm.
and Atlanta, where we used to live, was not that far away. So we came here. Justin turned into a teenager, and unfortunately, when that puberty hit, it hit hard. And all of a sudden, Justin started not knowing how to control himself. Like, I guess, a normal boy will grow and testosterone, all this stuff comes in, and they know not to, exert all that energy out on people. But Justin began hitting me and just not knowing how to control himself.
Oh.
So it became worse and worse. First, it was a little hit, and then it was like he didn't want to get out the shower when I'm like, it's time to get out the shower. And it was a fight. And it just kind of got worse and worse. And I had to start thinking
Mhm.
about calling the police for backup, because it was, my husband was not always home.
Mhm.
And so the situation kind of just escalated until a couple people put in my ears that this may get to a point that you really can't have him at home, because he has a younger sibling, and
Mhm.
home is just dangerous, because I
Mhm.
could say, Justin, that's it, the kitchen is closed for the night. And it's like, no, it's not, and it's just a whole thing, and stuff is,
Um,
and we have to find a lock for the fridge, and we have to put a two-sided lock on the front door, just a whole bunch of things. It just became too much. And I started to hear by that time that you really need to get in touch with the state and try to get some help to find a place for him. It was a whole long thing. This was maybe 2018, 2019.
Okay.
And it just, I realized you're really not going to get any help until you get documentation.
Mm.
Really where it comes down to. So as much as you don't want to call the police on your child, that's crazy. I realized after a while, I really wasn't going to get help until I started getting these documentation. So when I'm in the car and Justin's reaching from the back and pulling my hair and doing all this stuff and I can't drive, I have to get a police report. You know what I mean? And started getting this documentation, and it puts you in a very precarious position because you're in a bad situation. Why? That's how you get the documentation, because you were in a scary situation, but in the same time you need it because you're not getting any help without it. You understand?
Yes.
So anyway, this all went on, and I kept on trying to get help from the state and find a place for him, at least temporarily. And I wasn't getting anywhere, and I just had to keep on going. And that's where I kind of learned to not take no for an answer, keep going downtown, be in their face, keep calling, just do whatever I had to do until the whole thing just reached crisis. And I finally had enough documentation. I went downtown and I was like, this cannot go on. My daughter's in danger. I'm in danger. I might die because my son is literally like doing all kinds of things to me, and our home is not safe. And I had to be really, really firm and kind of threatening, really, to get the placement. Anyways, we got the placement right before COVID, like maybe 2 weeks before the world shut down.
Oh, wow.
God worked that out, because had it gone on just a little bit longer, I don't know what would have happened. It's just been a very, very bad situation. So we got this placement very close to our house, and I was very pleased with it. The people at the house were great. Of course, it's a very difficult thing to move your child to somewhere else and they can't talk or really advocate for them, tell me what's wrong, if anything. But I wasn't able to see him for a good 6 months because of COVID. It was supposed to be a 30-day, him getting used to it. But because, how crazy the world was, 30 went to 60, went to 90. And by the time I finally saw him, it was 6 months later. Wow. We actually ended up on the news because that's when it was like, people can't see their loved ones in the hospital and all of that. And then people were putting their hand on the glass and, to feel, mirror all of that. So I ended up on the news with a news segment, and the news came over when I finally got to go to the house and see him in person in the house, like the big reunion. The news cameras were there and everything. Yeah. So that turned out to be that picture on the cover of the book.
Oh,
the big reunion.
That's powerful.
So anyways, it's been 4 years
since
that day, a little bit over 4 years that he's been in the house. And during that time, I just told you, basically, we got hope, we got some peace, calming down, and I've turned that into speaking at different conventions, writing 2 books, doing podcasts, radio shows, and different things to support other families.
That is beautiful, Michelle. At this time, I'm going to bring my daughter in, ML6, my co-host. Hi, darling. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Micha. This is Michelle O'Reilly, and she was just, as you were listening, her beautiful, amazing story. And we want to, again, celebrate you, Michelle, in all that you're doing. I know Micha may have some questions, but I have one question before Micha comes in. How has the relationship been with his sister and him? What's their relationship like?
It's good. I mean, he watches her sometimes. She plays the violin a lot. So we'll watch Oakwood programming and see her on the TV, and he smiles and he'll clap his hands and stuff. She's helpful with him. But I don't want to make that her responsibility for life. She has her own life, and I want her to achieve her goals. I do want her to check in on her brother as she gets older and as he remains in the home. But I don't want to put that on her as her job, per se. But they have a good relationship.
Very good. All right. ML6?
When he first, I know it was difficult for you when he started changing and when the physical, I don't want to say call it abuse because that's your baby, but when things started getting physical, I know that that was hard for you mentally and emotionally, and trying to figure out what was best. Was it hard for you to navigate what would be best for you or what would be best for him? Was that a hard navigation?
Of course, yes, yes, because on one hand, he can't speak or take care of himself or anything, and he's my baby. I love him to death. So how could he not be in the house? And that was a contention even within our household of us as a couple navigating that. One person wanting, how could we do this? And at the same time, our house is not safe for all of us. You know what I mean? So yes, it's definitely a tug of war. It was difficult.
Did it create discord within the home for
Yes.
you, your husband, and then like just having those alternate views on what was best? And how were you all able to come to a happy medium of, listen, this is what's best? Like, what was that process? Now, if I'm getting a little too
No,
deep, you can
that's
tell me, hold up, hold up.
I don't
But I
mind
was
being
over here
transparent.
listening.
I don't
And I was like, I know that that had to be a very difficult time within your household. It had to be like heavy, like this dark, heavy
It
cloud.
was serious.
Yeah, like so. What? Talk us through that. Like let the people
Well,
know
I'll
about
just be
that.
transparent because somebody else could be going through it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure.
So I'll just be transparent. But it did break us even after having 20 years in, 21 years marriage. It broke us. It was like, he's hitting me, he's not hitting him, because those usually, well, I'll say Justin, they're all different, but they don't usually, and a lot of them, I know from, dealing with autistic people, they don't hit the man usually. He's strong, he's big, and he has that bass in his voice, and he's off limits. So I could say, Justin, please, let's get in the car. Please, let's do whatever. Let's get out the shower now. Let me dress you. And he's just like, whatever, basically. And then Kevin, my husband, will come along and say, Justin, come. And he just gets up. And it's like, really? I've been begging you for 20 minutes. And even now, that still happens at times. And it's very frustrating because it's like, I just tried. But anyway, it did break us. And we broke apart after 21 years. I'll just be honest. And it took till Justin was in the home for a good year and a half, I would say, before things settled down. And it was like, okay, it wasn't the end of the world. He's fine. I go see him every weekend. Everything is okay. And we were able to reconcile our marriage and celebrate recently 25 years.
Well,
Amen.
congratulations on getting over that hump. And I know that it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was very hard. And
Yeah,
so
right.
now within your marriage, what are you guys doing as a couple to keep each other inspired and motivated and keep the love flowing with you all and not feeling any guilt or past guilt about what transpired with Justin? What are you all doing now?
We're just doing things together as a couple with Justin and without Justin. And, without him here, because we love him to death. Don't get me wrong. We love him.
Sure.
He's our child. But without him here, we can do things, go off on a weekend together, do whatever we need to do together, or just have our time, because taking care of a special needs person entails taking them to the bathroom, showering them, dressing them, feeding them, like literally nothing. It's like a big baby. You know what I mean?
Right.
Literally nothing for themselves. So we can do things, and then we bring him home every weekend. So I'm anxious to finish school on Friday so one of us will pick up Justin. And then now we have him involved with Special Olympics. So we do that on the weekend. That's the latest thing that we've gotten involved in. But even without that, we go for walks. We don't have anything against each other about what happened. We understand that that was a serious crisis thing we went through. And it's just something we went through, and it made us stronger.
Yes.
Well,
So
what do you say to couples that are going through this literally like right now with their child or children? It could be multiple children in the home, that it's a decision of whether to keep them in the home or put them in a facility where it will be best for them. Can you just give that woman, talk specifically to that woman right now that is like going through it? Can you give some words just of encouragement, just
Yeah.
just in this middle portion of our show, because I believe for whatever reason I'm here. So I believe that there's some reason that someone out there needs to hear what you have to say as it pertains to just holding on and pressing and not feeling that guilt as a mom or that anger as a mom, because you could have that anger with like you seeing that he's doing this to you and he's not doing that to your husband, so there's resentment that could easily be built there.
Yeah.
So what can you say to that mom out there going through this right now?
Well, I wish someone had told me that it wouldn't be bad always. Trouble doesn't last. Like, that trouble doesn't last always, but it was for a season. I mean, he still has little bouts of aggression, but nothing like what we went through. That was a puberty thing, and it has subsided. He really is much better toward me now. So just kind of staying in it, and as a family or as a couple, really staying tuned with each other and not listening to all the other people, because there can be a lot of voices, and they don't necessarily, I'll just be honest, they don't understand what it is to be in that situation, because they're dealing with typical kids and just don't have a clue. That's just the fact of the matter of it, because you have to be in it and dealing with being hit and being, just your house has all kind of crazy gadgets and stuff, for your pantry, for your fridge, for your laundry room, for everything. And this is this is not a baby, you know what I mean? So this is a strong person. And it can be very stressful. So just really staying tuned and with each other and playing your way through it and finding support in the autism community, or, finding other people who are also in that space, other mentors, other people who have gone through this that you can talk to.
What about the mom out there who's just like, who may not have a child that's not as high level as your son is, but who may feel like, you know what, I just want to keep my baby with me. I don't necessarily want them to they don't need any other relationships. They don't need to have this, and I want to keep my child with me. Like, what encouragement? Because I feel like a lot of that has to do with fear, because a child may be nonverbal and a child may not be able, you know what I'm saying? And so a mother wants to keep that child close. Absolutely. Instead of releasing them. Can you kind of give any language to that?
I understand that. I mean, everybody's different. I want Justin here with me, and there's no judgment. There shouldn't be any judgment either way of whether keeping them, putting them somewhere. I don't want to have, I didn't want what happened to have happened. It was just at such a crisis that we literally didn't have a choice. You know what I mean? So I don't feel guilty about it. And I don't blame anybody who wants to keep them close. If you can, and you can manage and get the services to come in, and that works for you, you know what I mean? Get some relief, get some respite, because it can lead to burnout very easily. And I'm involved with many groups, online and in person, where people are struggling just because of the burnout that it takes. And especially if they happen to be single because of the situation or not because of the situation, that's just even more stress. So really finding, other people in your circle, connecting with other people.
And about the facility that you chose to put Justin in, was there a list of facilities?
That was all God. I did not really do anything. It was just at a crisis. And like I said, I went downtown. It was just like, I had to take off work. Like, I'm a teacher and I could not function at work anymore. That's how bad it was. Like, there was no way to I kept switching off and switching on, like, because I have to do a show at school because I'm a teacher. So you have to be animated, you have to be fun. And then I'd go home, or the morning of school, I'm bathing and cleaning up a whole thing and doing all kinds of things. So my house isn't nasty all day. You know what I mean? So it just became too much. I had to literally stop work and be like, I cannot function. This has to happen now. And the very next day, they called me and said, we have somebody for you to interview to see if you like their home. And God worked it, because usually those placements can be very interesting, especially crisis. So they can put you, it's within the state, but I'm in Florida. They could have placed him in Tallahassee, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, wherever, Jacksonville. And God worked it that he was literally less than a mile from me, like
Wow.
literally walking distance. That is ridiculous. Anybody I tell, they're like, that's unheard of. He's
Oh,
literally walking distance from me. And the people who were working at the home at the time were so wonderful that I just absolutely, especially the main house manager, I just fell in love with her. I felt like, oh my gosh, my child is here. This is awful. But she was FaceTiming me all the time. And she was just so good. And the people in the house were so good. So, yeah, you
I
just
think
become an advocate, basically. You have no choice, because
yes.
if you're a parent of a child with special needs, things are not going to just come to you. So you have to advocate. Nothing's going to come on a silver platter.
yes.
So the more you reach out to organizations like Autism Society, and another group called Labeled and Loved. These are Autism Society is nationwide. Of course, you'll have, chapters in different cities. Labeled and Love is one I got involved with recently, who have conventions every year, wherever, all over the country. I love them. Labeled and Loved. There's a whole bunch of different things, online groups, and you just have to be the voice. You have to be the voice. And even as a teacher, I have children with needs in my class, in my school, and you can feel it sometimes. Parents don't want to have that label. And I know that relates to your question. It's very hard to have that label, because it's like you're admitting that things did not go the way, your family's not perfect and think there's something wrong. And it's a disappointment of all the dreams you have for your child, like, growing up and going to college and getting married. Depends on the level they are. But you know what I mean? Some of the things you would have wanted for your child may not necessarily happen the way you had planned. But you have to remember, you're looking horizontal and God is looking vertically. So
That's the blessing. Now, did I hear you correctly? Your son comes home on the weekends.
we pick him up because he's local. He's not far. And like I said, if he happened to be in Tallahassee or Miami or wherever, I wouldn't have that luxury.
So you have that now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you, Michelle, you stated that you've written a second book. What is the second book about?
The second book, well, the first book, people started reading it, and it kind of went off around my school, which is a fairly large Adventist community around here. So some of my students and their parents got hold of the book. And I was like, because I really wrote it to be a roadmap or a guide for families with kids with special needs. So I kind of wrote the stuff I told you. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I really wasn't expecting my little children to come and say, da, 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 da. So I said, you know what, let me just do a book for children. So the second one is called Uniquely Me, and it basically just outlines what autism is, and it lets kids know if you see a child in the restaurant and they can't wait for the meal to come and they're doing stuff like Justin would do, like grab food or whatever, how to approach it, not to make fun of other kids that are different. Things like that are in the children's book.
Very nice, very nice. I think that could definitely, develop into even a short film. We need more instruments to help people to understand this impact. Tanya Dykes, blessing to your family on staying the course. It sounds like Justin's life is being greatly fulfilled. Oh God, I thought caring for my dad was too difficult. So you never know, Tanya, until you go through. Miss Gillespie, yes, the burnout is real. And so my glasses are not doing well.
So are the triggers for anxiety and panic attacks. It impacts your mental health as parents.
Yes, it does. It really, really does. Again, your own mental health, what have you done for you and your own personal self-care?
Oh my goodness. If I were to turn the camera, you would see my house has become the jungle room. I have a lot of plants, and gardening has become my thing. I love to my garden outside. That's my pride and joy. My garden in the back in my lanai, and my living room has a big monstera, a big fiddle leaf fig, and lots of other plants. So
Listen, I know gardening is
self care.
yes, that gardening is a wonderful aspect. Okay. Does Justin does he enjoy gardening with you? Will he
Not
do
really.
that?
No,
Okay.
he doesn't pay attention to that. He likes his
So
little.
what are the things that he does enjoy? What are the things that Justin does enjoy?
Oh, he's always loved music, and I
Mhm.
do regret, going back. Hindsight is always 2020, but he's always liked music, and he dances and he claps and he does all
Mhm.
his stuff. I should have had him play some kind of instrument or do something with that. And then, like lately, I said we got him in Special Olympics because one of the things I noticed, Justin, at one point when all this physical stuff was going on, he was so fast. So we would be in Costco or Target or whatever, and I'm trying to shop, and Justin would just take off like Usain Bolt. And I'd have to be like, strangers, please, can you get that boy? Like, oh my God.
Wow.
Because he would just run straight past the cashiers into the parking lot, no awareness of danger. It's just a miracle he's alive because they don't, they have no clue that the car could actually kill them. So he would just run straight out for any gray car that looks anything like my car. And if it don't, God forbid it's open, he'll just get in. So he used to be so fast. And by him being in the house for 4 years, I've noticed that running and that go, go, go has kind of really slowed down over the 4 years because there's different boys in the house and they kind of sit and he's just not home and do the things we would do with them. So because I noticed he was slowing down, that's when I said, okay, this is not okay. You need to at least have you're only 21. You should still be running and when we take him for walks, I noticed I started to almost pull him, you know what I mean, to walk. So I was like, no, this is not okay. So that's where the Special Olympics came in. So we're working it back up.
That's good. That's good. The support system that you have, you stated that you have your youngest daughter at Oakwood, and Michelle is an Oakwoodite. Mike and I are Oakwoodites. And what is the most important concern that you have now for your children?
Well, I guess they would be different because Maya's at Oakwood just for her safety and, the typical things, her grades and staying out of trouble and all of those kind of, things that, you are aware of your child at Oakwood. But for Justin, it's just safety, praying over him that nobody's doing anything they shouldn't do.
Right.
With him. Sometimes, staff changes a lot at a group home. And that's one thing that I'm not crazy about because people that I got very close to, like I said at the beginning, they move on. So, I could ring the door one Friday and I'm like, this is not a person I would ever leave my child with if, in normal life, because it's just not my kind of tea, but it is what it is. And all I can do is go around the house and kind of pray over it and pray that everything is fine.
Michelle, how can people get your book? Tell us how to get your book.
It's on Amazon. It's on the publisher's website, but the easiest thing is Amazon. Both of them are on Amazon. Okay. So maybe Al can put the link in the chat or something. I don't know.
Okay. And what is the best way Al can put your website up and your information that people can reach you to bring you into their organizations and their facility? Because people need support. They need a lot of support and they need hope today. I was talking to a woman, a father. He has a 20-year-old son, and they just don't know what to do because he's now hitting. He is hitting the mother. He won't hit the father. The father is like,
told you.
But he does not hit the father. But when dad leaves, he really is becoming very aggressive with his mother.
Exactly.
But they do not want to place him in a home, but they're going to have to do something because it's getting out of control.
Right. Not only that, exactly. That's what I said. Most times it's the mom. It's like something with women, whatever, where He's taller than me. He's way taller than me. He's faster than me when he wants to be, and he's way stronger than me. And I know that, and he knows that. So there's that. But I was going to say the biggest thing on a family with special needs is I'm not going to live forever. I'm not going to live forever. I'm getting older and older. He's getting stronger and stronger, and most likely he should outlive me. So what's going to happen when I die? That's the biggest thing families with special needs face. Because typical kids, in typical families, the kids go off and they're independent and they're adults and they have their own lives. But when you have an adult who's 20, like that young man, or my son is 21, it's very scary because at some point I'm going to be a senior citizen and I'm just going to get older and I can't do all the things that I do now. So that's a big question mark.
Great concern, definitely. What is it that parents need to know? You said that you were just beating down the doors. You were not going to take no for an answer. What do they need to do and how do they get help? What do they need to do?
That's exactly it. Not take no for an answer. If you happen to find yourself in a crisis situation, you have to find your local, here it's called the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. So whatever it is in whatever state you're in, find the agency and see what is out there to get help. I mean, really connect with whatever autism organizations are in your city. And then you'll mingle and connect and go to Mother's Day brunches and go to different events, maybe in the park or whatever. And then that's how you meet more and more organizations and meet more and more people.
The name of the book, Journey to Acceptance. Why that title? Why?
Okay, because actually it's a two-part thing, two sides to it. Journey to Acceptance is, like I said, this whole thing has been a 21-year journey, and it's accepting Justin as who he is, because like I said, it's not my hopes for him that I wished he would talk and he would do this and that and read and write and go to college and all of this. It's acceptance. This is the child God gave me. This is who he is, and I have to accept him as he is. And then secondly, his house is called Acceptance. The name of the house and the organization he belongs to is called Acceptance. So it's Journey to Acceptance, two ways.
That's amazing. I love that, a twist on words, I think about, like I said, some of the things that I was labeled as. Why are children labeled like this? Or it's something bad, it's something terrible. Autism is not a disease. It's not something to, be ashamed of. Why is it labeled as something so awful?
Because there's a certain stigma put on by society. There's a certain stigma, like I was saying, just the acceptance that something is not right with your family. How are people going to react to them? How's law enforcement going to react to them? Do I have it? Like, how did this come to be? Why my child? So there's a lot of hesitation for parents to accept this. How are they going to be accepted at school? There's a child right now in 4th grade who was just not performing. It's not in my class, but my friend's class. She's just not able to do anything. And her teacher is like, you need to get a diagnosis. And there was a lot of kickback. The family just didn't want to accept it. And it's like, she's not producing anything. This is not going anywhere. Meeting after meeting is held. And sometimes parents will even put them in our schools to avoid the diagnosis. Because if they're in public school, they're going to get flagged much sooner. But you can put them in our schools and kind of stay under the covering. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not get the diagnosis. And then, because you want the Adventist education, you want them to be in our schools. But sometimes our schools can't do everything. Even my school has a resource department. There's some kids they just cannot service. So, there was pushback, and they finally just recently got her diagnosed. That,
Mm,
it became a source of contention within the household. And that is what helped to push that diagnosis.
my goodness, even with the IEPs being done, and everything is on a backlog, because of COVID and what happened. But still, listen to me, parents. Look at what's going on with your children and your adult children. I have a young lady watching right now, and I was the speech pathologist for her son, and from since he was like 4 or 5 years old, now he's 21, and looking at his life today. I think about also the acceptance part. A lot of parents that I've serviced in mental health have a hard time accepting that something is different with their child.
Mhm.
And they have to come to some type of understanding. I had one child who was hearing impaired. The mother never learned to sign. She said, "My son is not hearing impaired." And the son literally said, "Mama, I can't hear. I'm deaf. And you have to accept this." And
Mhm.
she cried because she did not want to accept that her son was hearing impaired. And working with him and helping him understand who he was, he had come to accept himself and that he was going to be hearing impaired, even with the hearing aids and the different devices they have today. But still, the pain was his mother not accepting him for
Oh,
who he was.
oh no.
And that was devastating,
Yes, that's very hurtful.
ML6.
Well, I'm still wanting to understand and and tap into the mom, even from you know carrying him, delivering him. This is the baby, and then as he's growing, and you're noticing that things are different. And I don't know if you guys talked about this prior to, but I just want to really get into the mom guilt because mom guilt is real. And I would really like for you to expound on those thoughts and feelings, and even like giving again help and guidance. We're here for help and guidance. And I know you tapped into it a little bit, but I just want to kind of get a little. I think it's something more in there in terms of as far as it goes with mom guilt, because I just really think that is important because and I'm talking about from mom guilt from the time you're realizing something's wrong, but then you don't want to accept it, and then you may wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years before you do accept it, and then you're like, oh, I should have done it. But like all those, because I know there's layers. I'm not a parent, but I do understand that there's layers to mom guilt. So can we just speak on that a bit?
Yes, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of mom guilt, and there's things I should have done, when he was 3 or 4, and, the whole progression may have been different and this and that. But what can you do about that? All you can do is go from where you are and try to be better. Yes, there's a million things I would change, because when Facebook brings up pictures from 10 years ago, and I'm like looking at that little Justin, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could just have that little Justin, all the things I would do differently now, where he would possibly be. But I did the best I could at that time. So basically, I would say stay in contact with other people who are going through what you're going through, because that's really a good source of support. Being in organizations, I would say, is probably the best thing, because you have friends, but none of your friends have a child like you.
Mm,
That's the bottom line. And
yes,
so that's also like difficult, because I have many friends, but
yes,
who has a child like Justin?
yes,
Yeah.
I have to go to my organizations, go to Labeled and Loved.
yes,
Labeled and Loved is wonderful. And you'll just be like, wow. You'll see all these people, mothers, it's all women, and only women are allowed to come to the convention.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And it's just wonderful. I went to Colorado last year, and this year is Memphis, and there's no way I'm going to miss it,
mm,
because it's just so wonderful. And then even your
And
local
these are
stuff,
conferences, for mothers with
yeah,
autistic children.
with mothers
Wow.
with special needs, any diagnosis, any age, any diagnosis at all. It could
wow,
be hearing, it could be
And it creates community. And it creates a community.
And we're not in the same, it's people from everywhere, but we have that commonality. And I just think that's the biggest support, because sometimes even your family may not understand. They're not going through it. Their kids are great. They're doing all the wonderful things. Great. And
They
so
can't give you the advice. What works for their child won't work for your child.
no,
And that's the reality. And there's no way you can force it. You
and
can't
it's
force
not
that.
their fault. They just cannot
Right.
relate.
So having that community. So can we talk more about these conferences? Because I didn't know.
I didn't know
conferences.
What?
So let's dive into that. Like, tell us about these conferences.
Yeah, like I said, Labeled and Loved is absolutely wonderful. That's one to look up. I have been privileged to speak for different things, like people just find me online or whatever. So recently I did University of Central Florida has a autism and disabilities branch or whatever. So I did a seminar for them, navigating group homes, navigating the challenges and the pros and cons basically of having your child in a group home, and what that's like for families who are just thinking about it and want to know, should I go in that direction? What can I look for? What should I be aware of? And all of that. So I do a seminar on that. Another one is coming up this summer that I'll be doing downtown Orlando. These are statewide conferences that I do those things for. So you just end up in a whole community that you didn't even know existed.
Wow. And you just did your research, and you discovered, and you found, and just
one thing leads to another. When you go to, for example, one thing they have in Orlando is coming up. Unfortunately, I'm going to be going to Oakwood that weekend. But one thing they have here is called Nathaniel's Hope. So that's a family who lost their child. I don't remember, but he passed away. He had spina bifida or something he had. And so they started a whole organization called Nathaniel's Hope, and they have it at a big park downtown. And it's for families with special needs. And so they have all these booths. So you'll have all these businesses and different things that cater to families with special schools, special therapies, special everything you can name. And then when you go to those things, you find out, oh, there's this. That's how I found out about Labeled and Loved. The Autism Society will have events. We'll have Mom's Night Out. Go eat at a restaurant, and you just share, you're just in a group that understands.
Yeah.
So that's how you get support. Be with people who understand.
I think that it's so important, again, to have these conversations.
Oh yeah.
I have a new heart for children with autism, because 2 of my closest friends have children, little boys with autism that are autistic, that are on the spectrum. And so I'm trying to be a better friend in that space for them, and just giving them the freedom, and being very cautious of what I ask in terms of just even their everyday interactions, and also affirming them as moms, being a good friend to affirm them as moms, because I know that it's not easy to be just a mom of a quote unquote what is assumed to be normal. But then you have a child, a typical child, and then you have someone who is just this amazingly special child, and just trying to navigate through that. So just being on the outside looking in, I myself I just want to be a better a student of it, and my heart goes out to it. So I watch all anything the Autistic dating show that was on Netflix. I watched that with my homegirl, and we just we were talking about her son and what it's gonna be like when he possibly starts dating, and how we're gonna how I'm gonna be an auntie to watch him, all the things. So I watch all those stuff, just watching those things with them, and I say it's easy. It's easy to just listen and be supportive as someone on that. I don't try to tell them how to raise their children. I'll ask questions like, hey, don't bite my head off, but what is it like for this, or what program is he in, or how is he doing, or what is he eating, or just certain things, and just to create a safe place for my friends to have. And then when I have these times, I just text my homegirl, I went and found Labeled and Love on Instagram, and I was like, hey, have you heard of this? And I sent her the Instagram link or whatever.
Tell her to come to the conference. I'll meet her.
And I know that there needs to be more of us in those spaces,
Yes, thank
because
you.
um, we don't necessarily know the resources. And this again, why these conversations are good, so that we can let us know that these
Mhm.
resources are available, and
Right.
that we too, you do not have to struggle. Like that whole, I got to be strong and I got to do all that
No,
bad by
no,
myself. No, we're not doing that anymore. Like we're not. We're finding strength in our weaknesses,
right.
and we're elevating off of that. That's
Right.
what we're doing.
Yes, very good. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
and there's a lot of groups online too. There's a lot of groups online. I see a lot of people, crying out, I can't do this anymore, da 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 da, and then people, in the comments sending love and this and that. There's a lot of online groups too for your
Okay.
friend.
This has been beautiful. I cannot believe that we are down to our last 5 minutes already. This was amazing. And ML6, thank you for your amazing questions and your insight. And I appreciate that. I praise God for you, Michelle. And, ML6 and I will be here. We look forward to having you back with us again.
I look forward to tuning in.
Thank you. I mean, seriously, we need to look at adding this a part of our Live to Be Well conference, ML6, and bringing she and Danielle together and Camille to do that and add that to our conference. We have a conference, Michelle, and we'll tell you more about that. We'll send you information. So in our closing remarks, Michelle, can you give us closing remarks, and then ML6, and then I'll close out.
Okay. Well, I just thank everybody for listening. And sorry, I started to get emotional. This is just a very close to the heart topic for me.
Yes, yes.
So Al, if you could put the links in the chat, we can connect on Facebook, Instagram, Michelle O13. Sometimes people just message me, about different things, or they know somebody, a lot of people know somebody who has a child or something like that, my family member, this and that. And so, just trying to give encouragement and give them guidance. Sometimes people call me, their child is doing this or that. How can, what's the next step? What should they do? Or where should they reach out to? So, yeah, I don't mind supporting like that. So we're here for each other. We're here for each other on this earth, to be here for each other. So.
Right. And you were very genuine. We felt your tears. We felt your emotion.
Me too. I didn't plan to.
No, it's all good, baby. It's all good. We're talking like Micah, your child. Micah, you should see me, Michelle. I get so emotional over my child. I'll cry over anything she does. Okay, so I do understand, and we are very empathetic with you. We're here for you, and like Micah said, a community. Micah.
Listen, you all, if you have people in your lives and they have children that are just special, they're special, and they're amazing. Don't try to
put them in a box.
Don't put them in a box. I say you'll never fully understand someone, because you're not that person. But what you can do is you can learn them, and you can learn their behaviors, and you can learn like the patterns, and you just kind of fall in line. Be compassionate. I think this world is missing a lot of compassion. A lot of people are so quick to judge situations that they have no idea about. Show compassion. Compassion goes a long way.
Yes, it does. That's beautiful. I appreciate that.
Yes.
She's a very compassionate child. She's just a loving child.
Yes.
Listen, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We will be back in 2 weeks. What amazing God we serve. Yes, Tony. Yes, we do. We serve an amazing God. Hugs. You are awesome. Thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you. All right.
You too.
If I may ask, where in Florida are you based? Let them know where you are, Michelle.
Orlando, Altamont Springs.
Yes, there we go. All right. So we thank God. We know that God is able, and we know God is leading. He does not make mistakes. Children are a gift from the Lord. And we thank God for the gift of children. And that we know that with the right leadership and guidance of the Holy Spirit, We know the O'Reilly family is doing what God has called them to do. And we're so happy that God has reunited their marriage. And this was a test of love. And God truly intervened. And we appreciate that story in so much. Miss D, amen. ML6, amen. And, you know, I have a family there. Oh, I have family there. Laugh out loud. I will reach out. There you go, Melanie. There you go. You know, we're building community here. We're building great community, and we're going to all come together for our PTO conference. Well, listen, until next time, we want to thank you. Michelle, we have a saying that we do on the count of 1, 2, 3. We're going to do a practice with you. We say, live to be well. Okay, now 1, 2, and 3. Live
to be well.
well. God bless you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.